Hey, looks like we got one person back with us. Dark Knight, it's you. I'm surprised at how quickly I caught the live stream. Usually I talk for 20 minutes to nobody. Yeah, that was your fault, Laura. You should have stayed here. Fortunately, it only took me a couple of minutes to realize that I'd lost my connection. I didn't see it on my tablet. I saw it on the actual my monitor. It says that whenever it says that you've got an unstable connection, it means it's just done. I've waited and waited and waited for it to reconnect. It just doesn't. So when I see that message that comes up that says you have an unstable connection, please wait. I just have to do a restart and just start the show over because it's never coming back if I wait for it. So fortunately, I looked up while I was chatting and I happened to notice that, and I didn't stand here for 20 minutes talking to nobody. All right, it's got a minute or two left on the nitrate, but I got to say, it's not nearly as red as I was expecting it to be. I wonder if I fucked it up by getting my drops all wrong. Let's do another test because this doesn't even look like a normal color. It's like this weird sort of orangish red. I've never even seen that before. So I'm going to dump this out and we're going to do another test. I really don't think the number of drops you put in from bottle number one should make that much of a difference. Like if I put a little extra in and make it a little extra acidic, I don't really. I mean, once you get it up to a certain point, it's it's a pH of 3 or something. Like how much more acidic am I going to make if I put an extra drop in? So I don't know, but we'll try another one here. I'll do a proper 10 count this time. Well, goddamn, that time I did it without even having to flick it. I just filled it to the perfect level. All right, of course, I've already put the test away, so let's get it back out. At least I remember where it was this time. And I have said in the past that it doesn't matter which, if you accidentally grab bottle number 2 first, put it in. That may not necessarily be true either with what I just explained about having, I don't know how much of that you heard before I got cut off. But the bottle number 1 is only meant for making sure that the water is fully acidic before you put in the actual reagent, which is in bottle number 2. So I think you probably have to do bottle number 1 first or it might screw the test up. All right, let me count these off this time. All right, I definitely got 10 drops that time. That was bottle number 1 and bottle number 2. We are going to shake it again, even though I just used it a few minutes ago. And we're going to do this in the light where I can actually see it. And I also don't think I shook that first test up. I think I just set it down after I put the drops in it. Yeah, I don't remember doing that part. So it's well shaken. It's the correct number. So let's wait and see what happens with that test. And when we're done that, we'll get to the gourami tank. And then I will drink my second glass of tea for the night and kick my trip into high gear. Well, this doesn't even feel like a trip. This is just pleasant. I get that second glass in me. We'll move into the territory, at least on the doorstep of tripping. I still have yet to go for it and just eat like an eighth or something and really just actually trip and see trails and bending wavy shit and all that kind of stuff. Part of me wants to, but part of me is like, meh. Maybe if it was like a nice day and I could spend the day out in the yard or something, but like just sitting in the dark in my basement watching videos on my tablet, I don't know if I want to have like a solid trip while I'm doing that. I like the pleasant, buzzy sort of feeling. That's fine. Well, we're sort of still getting that same weird pale orangish short sort of color. Spark a cone. Thank you, Art. It's not like anybody's here chatting, but I'll get back to the all. Oh, it's already set for all messages. I already did that apparently. Yeah, we got back up to 8. I don't remember who it was because I saw it pop up right as I was noticing the stream installed. But somebody had guessed that the nitrate was going to come out at about 40 parts per million. And I might actually come out lower than that, which is shocking. I don't even remember the last time we did a water change on this. I know it wasn't that long ago, but it's probably been at least a few weeks or more. A few weeks gets behind me. Like I don't turn around twice and 3 weeks goes by. Getting old's like running downhill. The faster you go or the older you get, the fucking faster it goes. It's amazing how that tank can almost look completely emptied out, even when everybody's still in there. All right, let's get over here and do some work because that tank was getting boring with nothing going on in it. All I'm really going to do is back out some loose stuff. Of course, I just lit a joint, so that doesn't really go hand in hand with trying to do aquarium maintenance. So let me take a couple hits off my joint and I'll go ahead and put that out. Actually, I know you're making a joke there, Laura, but that tank often looks empty when you walk in the room. You guys see it as a rule when it's being fed and when I'm sitting in front of it and they see me and they think food's going to be there. But more often than not, those discus are just kind of laying low and down in the weeds and bushes and in the back of the tank. You hardly ever see them until, again, they think I open that hood and they all come running or swimming. All right, I got my bucket, dear Liza, and my hose all ready. So let me try another hit of this. Without choking myself to death. And now we're going to get on with some tank maintenance. Let me get the camera adjusted so you can actually see what's going on. Those bright lights wash that out. Oh, if Kane ever shows up, I need to show him how I've got those lights all wired together too. So that should give you a better look at what we're doing in the tank. And again, I'm not going to use the gravel vac. I'm just using a vinyl hose here. And this is what I wanted to get out of there mainly, all this cyanobacteria. I don't know how much of that you guys can see with me standing in front of it. There's a bunch of stuff in the back here near the filter intake I want to get out too. You can see what I'm doing. I'm sort of scraping the wood and it's tearing the Java moss off of it. And some of it's loose enough that it just comes out with the force of the suction. but a lot of it needs to get torn out of there. You can actually see there's a piece of wood under there. And the bucket is full. All right, so let's go dump this. I'll come back. We'll do at least one more bucket. And yes, all that stuff's going right down my toilet. Oh, you're going to have to move out of my way to get past here. Hang on. Good. I swear to God, these buckets get heavier every day. Suppose I don't have to fill them all the way to the top like I do. All right, I try to avoid any of the gravel that gets sucked up when I do these kinds of water changes and vacs and whatnot, especially if I'm cleaning the bottom. I always pick up some gravel. So I try to be careful when I'm pouring them off. Make sure I'm not dumping gravel down the toilet, but I've dumped a lot of gravel down the toilet over the years. Yep, didn't get it. I'd rather be too quick than too late. So this tank has a very sandy substrate on the bottom. It's not entirely sand, but it's very sandy. And so I got to be really careful when I get the vac near the bottom of this one, because it'll just siphon that shit up like nobody's business. It'll just clean the bottom out of the tank. Oh, I wish this, see all that black stuff that just went up, that was all sand from the bottom. Oh, wow, I got some Java Windelov growing in the back of this tank. I didn't even know that was in there. There's a whole big pile of it growing behind that center piece of wood that everybody always calls the Christmas tree. Because all the Java moss usually covers it up. You can't really tell it's a piece of wood under there. Wow, there's a lot of detritus back here. Get a bunch of stuff off the power head. Some of these old snail shells off the bottom. All right, yeah, I can definitely feel the power heads moving water again. I got a clog somewhere in the line. Oh, I see it. It's this stupid shell got stuck. There we go. Oh, Jesus, I just sucked a fucking hole in the bottom of the substrate. I don't know how much. I got like 2 tablespoons of sand out of there by accident. When I reached down to get it flowing again, I dunked the end of it right into the sand. All right, and that is pretty much what I wanted to accomplish. There's a couple little bits and pieces around here I could have gotten, but whatever. Oh, sorry, I forgot I moved you and didn't move you back. You see the hole I dug right down there in the bottom? That's where I dumped my hose while I was trying to get the flow started again. One of the empty snail shells from the bottom got sucked up into the hose as I was, well, I deliberately sucked it into the hose, but it got stuck in the hose. All right, let me go get the hose. And we'll put some water back in the tank. This is going to be the dangerous part. Make sure I don't overfill it. But I feel like I got my wits about me now. It was just that early onset. First half an hour, 45 minutes is a little fuzzy. Like I said, you should have seen me trying to get the damn camera set up and, you know, get the live stream started. I could not figure out what the hell I was doing. All right, in this case, I'm not going to just put cold water back in it since we took you know, full 10% out of the tank. So I'll go ahead and adjust that to let some warm water flow in. I'm not too concerned about exactly matching the temperature as long as the water's mostly warmish. It'll be fine. I know I didn't put enough in there to overheat the tank. And even if it's 5 or 8 degrees colder than the tank is, that'll mix with the water that's in there. And within a few minutes, the tank will be fine. If I ran straight cold water in there, my water comes out of the ground. So it's like 55 degrees. You know, 10 gallons or more of 55-degree water in that tank would probably drop the overall tank temperature a little more than I'd want to. Okay, there you are. Aqua Botany, how are you? Yeah, Laura, if you give those fish a place to hide, then you can't just stand there and stare at them like they're photographs hanging on the wall. And I think that's what a lot of people want to see in their fish, whereas I prefer to see them moving around in a natural habitat and all that sort of thing. All right, while we're filling this up, Kane, I'll show you exactly how I did this. You can put any kind of light bulb you want in it. I use these specific Cree floodlights, but you can buy these little actually, wait a minute. I think I've got one in the other room that I haven't used yet, and I'll just show you what the individual unit looks like. God help me if I forget we're filling that tank and I get lost rooting around in the drawers in here for 10 minutes. Hopefully I will pick it right up because I think I know exactly where it is, or at least pretty damn close to where it is. Let's see. Is this what I'm looking for? No. That's not what I'm looking for. That's not what I'm looking for. That's not what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. So you can get these little sockets that come with the hook on them. Basically, you unscrew the cap. You split the cord like a lamp cord. You lay one side down, you know, the one side, you lay one side down the other. When you screw this back on, you don't have to cut it. When you screw it back on, it presses it down into it, and it's got little pins that stick up that electrify it. And so what I did was, oh, my mic's caught on my damn peace lily. What I did was I just bought you can buy a lamp cord that's just a plug with a lamp, you know, cord that ends. So I ran in a series, and then the lamp cord just goes out, and that way I only have one plug to plug in and one light to turn on. And I did run it through a dimmer switch. You know, I installed a dimmer switch on the line. But, you know, 4 of these, they cost a few dollars. $1.49 a piece, you know, $1.89 a piece or something. I've done the same thing here. If you look at the whole row, it's all just one lamp cord, and it just comes to a single plug. And then again, you can put whatever kind of light bulb you want into the sockets once you've got the socket assembly put together. And then, of course, the little hanging hooks make for handy dandy little hanging hooks. And so that's all I did. It was very simple. And I think I bought the lamp cord at Walmart for like $6. And then again, the little, you know, the sockets that I just showed you are going to be, I don't know, we'll call it $3 a piece on the outside. I don't think they're even that much. I think they're like $1.75 a piece. I could be wrong. Not only have prices gone through the roof, it's been a long damn time since, no, that was nothing to worry about. It's been a long time since I put this together, so who knows if my memory's accurate or not, but they're not that expensive. You get the idea. All right, I'm going to run upstairs really quick and get the fan turned on. I don't believe I didn't turn it on before I started tonight, but apparently I didn't. And the reason I'm going upstairs to do that is I have the fan plugged into a socket down here, but the socket has one of those like remote control switches on it. And I keep that at the top of the steps. So if I do want to turn the fan on, I don't have to walk all the way down here to do that. I can just open the door at the top of the basement and just push a button and the fan comes on. The downside is if I'm down here and I want to put the fan on, I got to go up the steps to turn it on. Ian, we forgot to check, but I think you're going to be in the neighborhood. I don't have the actual chart in front of me, but you can kind of see using just the white background. It's kind of on the cusp of being red, but still a little orange. I would say that's between 30 and 40 parts per million, something like that. It's a lot lower than I was expecting, honestly. I thought it was going to be, at least a dark red color, not necessarily crimson, but I definitely thought it was going to be a very deep red color. And it's not. It's just on the cusp of switching from that sort of orange to red, which is that sort of 40 parts per million, line. So you nailed it. I will definitely give you the win on that one. This time I'm going to put the, let's call that filled. I'm going to put the vial in the box this time. Get the water turned off before we overflow the tank. And I am ready to sit down and call it a damn night. We'll pull right out of there. We'll get the lid closed. Did you get all the information you needed out of that cane? Did I explain that accurately enough for you? All right, lights out, hose put away. And I am coming to sit down, everybody, so prepare yourselves. Your night is about to get 100% sexier. First, I got to bring you back over here. Hang on, let me get you screwed back in there nice and tight. All right, let's grab this, let's grab this, let's grab this. It's me. Oh, there it is. So where the hell did my nicotine go? All right, everybody. We are capping a squat. And it's 9:15, so we're actually kind of on schedule here, aren't we? Bob Zini. No, Kane, not at all. And one thing I will point out, remember those, when you unscrew the cap on that thing, let me actually just grab it again and I'll show it to you what I'm talking about. I don't know if I actually put that away or if I don't know putting it away. Did I just set it down here somewhere? I probably set it somewhere stupid thinking I'll just go ahead and put this away tomorrow, and now I don't know where the hell I put it. All right, let me go see if I put it away. I very likely may have. I don't know. We'll find out here in a second. Oh, God damn, that thing's in my way again. I did put it away. Wow, I hardly ever put anything away. All right, let's get that out of my way so I don't kick it again. All right, if you buy this or anything similar to this, when you unscrew it, let's see, I can use this cord for a moment. So when you buy your lamp cord, there's going to be something you probably don't know about lamp cord. A lot of people probably don't know this about lamp cord. If you look really closely at it, you'll see one side has ridges on it and the other side is smooth. See how that's got the ridges on the outside and then the other side is smooth? That tells you which side is positive and which side is negative. And I honestly don't remember which side is which. And in this case, it doesn't matter. Just remember that when you split this, and that's what you're going to do, you're going to take like a razor knife and just cut a line through that centerpiece and just open it up. So you've got the ribbed side on one side and you'll have the smooth side on the other. And you just lay it down, in those little channels right there. So it's going to come out, spread around, go through those channels, and then come back together. You only need to cut about a 2-inch slit between them and just lay that in there. But you'll notice one side is silver and one side is brass. Doesn't matter which side you choose, but whichever side you lay the ribbed side on, let's say you put the ribbed side on the brass side, do that on every single one. Make sure the ribbed side is on the brass side on every one of them. If you do it the other way around, then just make sure they're all the same. There is a difference between how that works. Now, when you're talking about something like an LED that operates on, it's got a DC transformer and stuff in there, it honestly doesn't matter. But if you're wiring things like speakers and electronic equipment, it's important to know the hot from the neutral, which is the, ribbed versus the smooth side. So always keep that in mind. But all you're going to do is unscrew that. You're going to lay the wires into those channels, like I said. And then when you screw this cap back on, it just presses the wires. I don't know if you can see them or not. Let's see if you look. See how it's got that little metal spike sticking up? That's all you need. So when you screw the thing back down, it presses the wires onto those spikes, and the spikes go through the rubber and touch the wire in the middle. And that's all you got to do. So you don't have to use wire strippers or solder or anything like that. You just split down the middle, put them in there, and then screw it down, and it presses them in, and you're good to go. All right, let me see who just... Oh, that was just an email I was getting. Oh, it's hang on, it's my friend Tim. The side with the ridges is the neutral. The neutral goes to the silver side. Thank you, Tim. So there you go. The side with the ridges, or the ribbed side, is the neutral, and neutral goes with the silver pin. I still say, as far as with the LEDs or whatever, I genuinely don't think it matters, but just do them the same on every one, and then that way you've got the same, alternating current back and forth simultaneously in all your devices, and all the sockets are happening at the same time. You get what I'm saying? All right, let me come back there and sit back down. I was gonna say I was in the middle of doing something, but I think the something I was doing was sitting down. I got back up to show you that thing. All right. Oh, there's Laura busting in with her electronics, electrician knowledge. All right, let's see where I was. Got a lot of comments going on now. All right, said hello to Bob, Mike, hello, Zini, hello. Yeah, I was assuming the show's been pretty much dead tonight. I've had anywhere between like 6 and 12 people all night, and I just assumed it was because it's Halloween. Zini is still in his twilight state. Yeah, we're up to 17 now. Well, 16. The parties are winding down. People are starting to come home and show up. My sockets, they're definitely not outdoor. they're definitely not IP68. If they ever fall in the water, they're just they're just gonna be in that water. I'm not too worried about it, but yeah, they're definitely not the IP68. The lights themselves are, but the sockets are definitely not outdoor sockets. But barring me dropping the live line into the tank, which I still honestly don't think would hurt the fish at all, they might feel a little bit of weirdness or something. They might kind of freak out a little bit, but I honestly don't think dropping a live light in a tank would matter. I've dropped aquarium hoods in there with lighted fluorescent lights on them before, and it's never, all the fish didn't get electrocuted and die. Oh shit, I've got my bottle open. I'm shaking my hands around. I'm gonna be throwing iced tea all over the fucking fish tank here in a minute. But yeah, they're just indoor sockets. The only thing I would be concerned about, and I have had this experience in the past, is with not necessarily direct contact with the water or even splashing, but just humidity. Obviously inside this, containment unit above a warmed fish tank, there's going to be a pretty high degree of humidity. So the first thing I did was the whole inside of this, that white paint, that's kills, so that I don't have mold growing on every damn thing on the inside of the tank. But my light sockets will occasionally, I've had issues in the past where some of them have gotten corrosion, and while I wasn't getting a good contact and the light would go out, I'd have to kind of jiggle it or screw it around a little bit. Maybe sometimes take it out, unplug it, and then stick an emery board in there and maybe get the pin a little cleaned off. And again, it was just that sort of green corrosion you get on the copper parts in there. But other than that, I've never really had any issue with it. All right, Mike, you have a good night's sleep. I was getting ready to say something. I don't remember what it was now. I guess it doesn't matter. Probably wasn't important. What is happening? Not a lot. I don't know what the Casa outlet is, but I'm assuming it's one of those. No, Zini's not going to sleep. Zini's just coming too. I don't know for sure, but I get the impression that Zini's waking up routine and getting his day started is probably akin to a bear coming out of hibernation every spring. A little groggy on the uptake for a little while. But that's just my guess. I've never actually woken up with Zini. He lives a long way away from here. Ugh. Come on. That's what I just said. I don't remember what the hell I was going to say now. It was something to do with the lights that we were talking about. I talked about the corrosion and the IP68. For anybody that doesn't know, IP68 is like a waterproof rating. It stands for ingress protection. Generally, speaks of water, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Laura, but ingress protection is ingress of anything, including dust and so on and so forth. So it prevents, like if your phone, or your electronic device is IP67, that's rated for a certain amount of ingress protection. A certain amount of water may get in. Once you get up into those higher numbers, it starts getting more and more waterproof. And some of those things can go like down to 300 meters below water, and all that kind of stuff. And of course, if they can keep water pressure out and everything, it certainly keeps dust, et cetera, out. I'm only down to one dandelion left. I have successfully eliminated 2 of them. The bastards. Oh, I forgot. I got a new, well, again, a new Doctor Who to watch. It's not a new, obviously. It's a Tom Baker episode, actually. My favorite Doctor. But the Doctor Who Classics channel that I subscribe to had a premiere. It said it was upcoming, so I honestly don't know if it's going to be there tonight. I certainly hope it is, because when I'm done here, I'm going to go watch that. If not, it'll definitely be there by tomorrow. So either way, I got a new Doctor Who to look forward to. Well, let's talk a little bit of electrical theory since I got you here, Laura, and you're a professional, so you're certainly going to know better than I am. My understanding of the way electricity works is that it's always going to take the shortest path to ground. So if I've got a cord that has a light plugged into it, and effectively, you got one part of the circuit and the other part of the circuit, and the connections being made through the light bulb, if it fell into the water, I could understand if it was like a natural body of water, like a pond or something, it would clearly be able to ground directly into the water. Now, I know ground also doesn't necessarily mean into the ground. It just means into any body that can absorb a lot of those electrons, like the way you can ground the battery of your car against its frame. It's just a big enough surface, it's just enough material that it can take those extra electrons, and that grounds it out. And so if we simplify down to a single cord with a lamp on the end, and that fell in the water, would that electricity, like where would it want to ground other than just continuing the circuit? I think the light would stay lit if it was, like my plastic, floodlights that would stay lit underwater. That could be lit underneath, the tank. And I think it would just stay lit. I don't think that electricity would go through the tank. And in fact, now that I'm thinking about a bulb in the water like that, one of the YouTube channels I used to watch is called Migro, and the guy made his own LEDs. And I noticed in the background of one of his tanks one day, and I asked him a question in the comments, and he responded to me. One of his LEDs was in his aquarium, like underwater, and just glowing away. And I asked him, like, is that, am I seeing things, or is that like in your tank? And he's like, yeah, I did that to prove to people that they function underwater. Now, I don't know if his was sealed or something, and that's why it was just functioning normally. But he said the water actually helps to keep it cool. It actually functions better underwater than it does, free hanging in the air, because it doesn't have the same kind of cooling capacity. So again, that might have been a completely different scenario where it was a sealed unit and everything was completely isolated from the water. I have no idea. But that's always been my suspicion. And again, I have dropped LEDs and stuff in tanks before, and the fish, the splash scared them, but that, I'm, oh shit, pulling a light out of the fucking aquarium, and everybody was always fine. I've never had a problem with that happening. So that's always been my assumption, is that, it's not really a grounded environment. If I had a copper wire going down, out of the tank or something, again, that might be a different scenario, but it's an isolated, insulated box of glass, So I really don't think that's as much of a concern as a lot of people think. Not to say that it's, a good idea or anything, but I just think your average fish keeper thinks that if a light, an electrified, article fell in the water, they think of, the movies with the toaster in the bathtub. You have to remember the bathtub has a copper pipe that goes into the ground. You're in a tub full of water with a copper pipe in it. So a bathtub is very much grounded. An aquarium is not. And so I just don't think you'd get that same toaster in a bathtub effect. All your fish fucking getting electrocuted. And again, I've done it enough times to know that they don't get electrocuted. And so that's always been my understanding. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying, Laura. Those were the problems that I actually did experience, was just corrosion over time. Well, I'll let you think on it. You don't have to worry about answering me tonight. But yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was saying. Just bad electrical connections and stuff like that. Now, I guess in theory, you could have a bad electrical connection, which would cause arcing, and that could potentially cause a fire or something like that. But I've never had that experience. I had the experience where it just stopped working, and I had to just kind of jiggle the light a little bit, and it came back on. And I think I eventually replaced that socket too. Now that I'm thinking about it, it was in this tank. It was the far light on the end, which I still haven't had any issues with since I'm pretty sure I replaced that socket. Well, Zini's got that good 240 over there, so he'll definitely get a hairdo while he's in the shower. All right, everybody, it's 9:30, so I'm going to commence on my second glass of mushroom tea for the night. I'm not going to drink it all at once, but we're going to get started on it now. And I know I said earlier that you don't want to see that blue color. That's blue raz flavoring. The tea itself was clear, but I don't like that mushroom taste, and so I put a little bit of blue raz in there. I honestly don't like the blue raz taste either, but it's better than the mushroom flavor. And I actually deliberately use a flavor that I don't particularly like because I don't want to associate that tea with a flavor I like. So the blue raz is my tea thing. That's all it gets used for. If my wife ever sees any, blue drink or whatever in the refrigerator, well, she's smart enough to know if she sees anything in the refrigerator she didn't put in there, she doesn't fucking eat it. But definitely anything that's got that blue color in it is definitively my mushroom tea, and that's all I use that blue raz stuff for. I'm not a big fan of the flavor, but it's a powerful flavor, and it overrides that mushroom flavor easily. Martin. How are you this evening? The Ooga Booga Ned, how are you? No, I'm not really growing out a mustache. I will get back to you in a second there, Martin. No, I'm not growing out mustache. I actually thought about trimming it tonight. I am growing out my beard, and so I need to thin this out and trim my stash to get it all sort of even. But I didn't feel like fucking with it tonight, so you're getting a little bit of the walrusy look going on. Pretty soon, eventually, it'll curl into my mouth completely. But we got a few weeks to go before it gets that bad, so we'll take care of it before then. No, I do not use CO2 in any of my tanks, to answer your question. And you may be surprised to know that I also don't use any kind of ferts, tabs, root tabs, liquid fertilizers. I don't do shit. The tank is just the tank, and if things are going to live in it, then they do, and if they're not, they don't. And obviously, you can see I got plenty of stuff going on in there that likes living in this tank. If we look down there, we have what is probably the world's largest anubias. Likewise, I don't use CO2 or ferts or food or anything in any of my tanks. My 55 over here, every 9 months or so, it's just completely full, and I have to strip it all the way back down. It's like cutting the grass because of the crypts in there grow so crazy. My 40 down here is full of stuff. I can get up and walk around and show you the tanks if you want, if you're just tuning in and you're not familiar with my tanks. This is probably the least attractive tank in the room. And we got my little 20 over there, and we're back to where we started. So if you want, just throw a comment up there. I'll take the camera around the room and give you a quick look at what we got going on, if you'd like. But I hope that answered your question. You want to see me with a big fuck off mustache? There was a brief period of time where I tried to do the handlebar. I used the mustache wax and everything. But the hair just wants to curl down. And so I'd have one side curled up and the other side would curl out and twist around. And within an hour or two, like I had one side pointing down and one side pointing up, which actually now I'm thinking about it might have been kind of cool. I should have done that. But But yeah, it was just kind of a phase I went through. I think I was 17 or 18 or whatever. Wanted to see if I could do the handlebar mustache. I didn't like it. It was definitely a sustache. All right, let me relight this joint again. It was really tough to smoke a joint on a live stream. Bong hits are easier, or dabs are easier. I can just do one and get back to talking. To keep a joint lit, you got to keep puffing on it, and I don't because I talk. Oh, I was wondering what that was. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. No, you can't. I looked over and you still can't really see it. Let me just do this. I looked over and I saw that red stuff up there and I didn't know what the hell it was. It looked like a long, thin something or other, but then I realized it's just a bunch of the vibra bites that didn't sink and they're caught up in that. This light pisses me off. It sits just enough on the front lid that if I lift it, it sort of pushes it backwards. But the back edge of the light is against the lip, and so it doesn't move. It just sits there. I got to lift it up off of that, and then I can open the damn tank. It's a pain in my butt. I know that's a great challenge to do all that, but it still just gets on my nerves. I can't just open the lid. I got to do that dumb shit. Or, I mean, I can open the lid enough to, may as well grab this while we're in there. I've been meaning to pull that out forever. Hey, look at that, everybody. I got a spray bar in there. All right, well, that's a nice big wad of stuff for the trash. All right, we got some extra tank maintenance done that I wasn't anticipating. All right, let's get you back on your perch over here. Yeah, I think you should probably rephrase that, Zini, and use proper tense and spelling. First of all, you should spell coming C-O-M-I-N-G, and then two should be T-O if you're like waking up and if you're coming to. T-O-O means also or as well. Like I'm going to do that too. That's when you use two O's. If you're just coming to, it's only one O, and it's definitely C-O-M-I-N-G or C-O-M-M-I-N-G if I'm not mistaken. All right, everybody, I'm coming back. No pun intended. All right. That was one for the ages there, Zini. Well, I have been lucky in that sense. I got some cousins and even my dad, like my brother. I'm one of the few people in my family that can actually grow a beard. My dad's all bare and patchy on his cheeks. He gets these patches in his neck and everything. From here down is just like I can grow a solid fucking Grizzly Adams beard. I've had this mustache and beard and whatnot since I was 17. It didn't come in early. It wasn't like that. I wasn't one of those 12-year-olds that had a light mustache or anything. If anything, I was probably a late bloomer. But once it started growing in, maybe by the time I was 18, I just full mustache, full beard. It's just always been like that. I never went through that sort of weird teenage, wispy little, trying to grow it in kind of mustache. It just sort of developed and I had it. And it's been my friend ever since. I never leave home without it. All right, let's light this joint again. I don't just sit here and smoke the joint until somebody makes a comment or asks me a question or something. I'm not going to respond until you do. You have a staring contest. All I got to do is stare at the camera. I do that a lot. I always feel bad for this discus. Can you see it? Right here. You can kind of see him a little bit. See how he's just hiding in the bushes? Like he spends his whole life down there because right above him is this mated pair, and they just harass the shit out of this poor guy. So I leave him in there almost as a sacrificial fish. My experience so far has been that even though those discus did kill off another discus that was in the tank, I started with 10. One got bullied to death. It took me a little while to figure out what was actually going on. I thought it was sick. I was medicating the tank and all that. By the time I realized it was being bullied, it was too late. It had died. And when that one was gone, another one started getting bullied. And that one looked like it was in bad shape too. And so I moved that and put it in my 55 over there where it lived for several years and then eventually did die. So I just feel like if I get in there and rescue this one and pull this one out, they're just going to find another one in the tank. And it's just always going to go down the list. I almost feel like I have to leave one in there. And he's smaller than the rest of them, but he has decent color when he comes out. And, you know, he's clearly the, you know, bullied fish that lives in terror, just hiding in the bushes all the time. But he's not, you know, dying like the other ones. Like they almost look like they were turning black and they were losing weight. And, you know, like they looked like they were sick and dying. He just looks like he's terrified and hiding. Again, I feel a little bad about putting him through that, but I just don't see it being a viable solution until I get the tank down to what, 4 discus. I don't have room to keep moving all these discus around. And so kind of as long as he's in there, it stabilizes the rest of the community and everybody seems to get along okay. So I don't know, maybe one day I'll try pulling him out of there and you know, maybe these two will just leave it alone. I don't know why this one doesn't just go down to the other end of the tank. My assumption is that everybody bullies him. It's not just these two. Otherwise he would just, why would he stay down at this end of the tank? This end of the tank is the territory of that mated pair. They lay eggs over in the corner all the time. And so if they're the ones bullying him, he'd literally just have to swim away and they'd leave him alone. But he doesn't. I just think he goes over here because it's the safest place to be. There's a lot of fish at the other end of the tank. There's only 2 at this end of the tank. So yeah, I don't see it working out for him in the long run. I could probably stack them after they died. I don't think they'd want to lay flat while I was, while they were living. Thank you, Martin. You too. I'm glad I could answer your question for you. There, I'm going to light my joint again. I light it, I take a hit, it goes out. I light it, I take a hit, it goes out. You get a lot of mileage out of one joint that way. No, he's definitely not antisocial. He's definitely bullied. I see when he does come out at feeding time and whatnot, he gets bullied around. Yeah, I definitely have to remove the overgrown plants, as you just saw. And Laura, if you're still awake, I don't mind some Java moss growing on the spray bar over there. I think it looks kind of cool. And in fact, I think the way it looked amazing. but it's interfering with the function of the spray bar. That spray bar is supposed to be circulating water around the tank and moving, and it was just basically spraying it into a muffler, or a diffuser. And I wasn't getting any kind of water flow or water circulation from the spray bar. So functionality needs to come first in the aquarium. As good as something may look, if that good thing is fucking up the way the aquarium functions, then you can't do that. So I left it there as long as I could. I've been meaning to pull it down for quite a while now. It was getting really out of control. But I can actually now see water swirling around the tank. I mean, you saw how all the food got collected in it. And so that was all fish food that not only the fish didn't get to eat, but was just going to break down and be waste in the tank if I didn't, get in there and spread it around. So it needed to be done. I know aesthetically it looked nice, but functionally it just needed to get out of there. And it'll grow right back. It'll, 6 months from now, I'll be doing the same thing again. Matt, you're back. If you want some Java moss, Laura, I got Java moss. If you want Java moss, I got no shortage of Java moss. You want some Java moss? Look, do you want some Java moss? Do you want some Java moss? I don't like that handful of Java moss I threw away was nothing. Again, we'll talk. You let me know what you want. If it's some aquarium plants, Java moss, I could probably, I don't know if you'd want crypt for anything. I don't know if that would grow terrestrially or not. I'm assuming it would. But whatever I got that I can make some cuttings from, if you want some of the Anubias, well, you're already getting a big piece of the Anubias. So you let me know and we'll work it out. Just send me a text when you're more awake. I do, Matt. I already drank my first swig of it at 9:30, and it's been 15 minutes, and so I'm going to drink another one. Again, you weren't here for it. That blue color is from Blue Raz flavoring. It started out clear, and then I put the blue raz in there just to disguise that mushroom flavor. So that's why it looks blue. You don't want it to look blue on its own. If you add blue raz to it, that's fine. You don't want it to turn blue by itself. And this isn't the color blue it would turn, by the way. It would turn like this deep indigo blue. It looks more purple than blue. But the blue bruising you see on the side of the stems and everything, it's that color blue. So if your tea turns that color blue while you're making it, it's ruined. If you put some blue raz in it, it's drinkable. May as well just drink all that. So I drank 0.9 grams at 6:30, and I just drank another 1.1 grams or 1 gram. I think the scale was teetering between 1 and 1.1 grams. So I actually just drank more there than I did before we started the live stream. So about a half an hour or so, I'll be getting out of here as that starts rolling on to me because that's going to be a bit much. I'll be time to start settling in for my Doctor Who for the night. And hopefully Zini will be nice and fresh and awake by then. If I can corrupt his mind. When you make it into tea, it actually kicks in pretty fast. When you eat the mushrooms, it has to, break down and dissolve and get digested and all that shit. When you dissolve it into tea, it's already in water because it's water soluble. And so when you drink it, your stomach can absorb water directly through your stomach lining. It doesn't have to go down into your digestive tract before it starts getting processed. It also doesn't have to go through your liver and all that kind of stuff. You're literally taking the water directly into your bloodstream, and you're carrying that psilocybin with it. So when you make it into tea, you can start feeling the effects on an empty stomach in as little as 20 minutes. You start feeling it start coming on to you. Usually I start feeling the effects around half an hour. And then from half an hour to maybe an hour from the time I drank it, it's coming on to me, and it's a little rough, like I said, and then it sort of smooths out. And by an hour and a half in, I'm smooth and I'm rolling. And then about 3 hours in, you hit your peak and you start kind of coming down the other side a little bit. So it'll be around midnight tonight, 1 o'clock. I'll be hitting my peak from that. They'll sort of overlap each other the way they work. You only got to let it soak for maybe 20 minutes. If you want to be sure you got all of it out of there, you can do it for 30. I honestly think, based on looking at it, within, I grind it almost into powder in my coffee grinder. And when you mix it up with the lemon juice, you've got to do the lemon juice. And then when I top the water off, I can just sit there and watch over about a 5 minute period. It almost looks like this cloud is drifting down. The mushrooms are going to float. And it looks like this cloudiness is sort of drifting down, and it'll get maybe that far below the mushrooms, and then it just kind of stops. And it seems to me like it's kind of done at that point. And that only takes about 10 minutes. So if you give it 20, I think that's more than enough. If you give it 30, you're good to go. I've let it soak for an hour before, just because I forgot I made it. It was sitting on the counter, and it looked exactly the same after an hour as it did after 15 minutes. So it doesn't take long. I would say that the chunkier it is, like if you just sort of break it up manually with your hands into small pieces, I'd let it soak longer. But if you put it in a grinder and you grind it into like coarse granules, 15, 20 minutes, you should be good. Let me see. The mushrooms are doing what I say. Doing what? Mushrooms are doing what to me? They're coming on to me. I'm with you. I got there, Zany. All right, Dave, thanks for hanging out. You have a good night. And I don't have any more Anubias for sale, so I can't really do anything about sending you some. All right, Laura, good night to you too. Knowing that I've got the spores and I'm going to be growing my own, I figured I'm going to be making a lot of mushrooms into tea over the course of, the foreseeable future. So I went ahead and just, instead of using my weed grinder, which I really didn't want to do because I don't want like the mushroom dust and just the smell to get in it or anything like that. So I spent like $12 on Amazon Basics. So it's one of those little coffee grinders where you put the lid on, you just push the button down and, just pulse it. And within a few minutes, a few seconds, you've just got this completely pulverized, chopped up shit. And you can do it as long as you want and get it as fine as you want. And again, I sometimes grind it until it's almost like a powdery material. And sometimes I'll wash it out when I'm done. Usually I just tap it out really good and get as much of the dust into the tea as I can. And then I just put it back in the cabinet because, again, my wife knows that's not for her to use. That's for me to use. And so I have a dedicated mushroom grinder. And if you're going to grow them yourself, I would suggest getting something like that, even if you just buy a cheap weed grinder. Because breaking it up by hand, you're just not really going to break it down enough. You want to get that ground up to make the tea. And so either, again, just get one of those little twisty, weed grinders, or spend the same amount of money and get one of those little coffee grinders. And that's it. Just the important thing is the lemon. Now, I will say, since we're talking about it, if you look it up and you start looking into the lemon, if you'll remember earlier, I was saying I'd made it with lemon. And then at one point I decided, like, I don't need to do this lemon stuff. That's because I read about a technique called lemon teching, or lemon tech, TEK. As far as I can tell, it doesn't actually do anything or accomplish anything. But some people say that taking the whole mushroom and just soaking it in lemon juice for half an hour, 40 minutes, and then eating it is supposed to do all these, things. It's supposed to make the trip better, and it's supposed to make the stomach, supposedly the lemon juice is breaking the tissue down, and it makes it easier on your digestion when you eat it, and so on and so forth. As far as I can tell, the only benefit from doing that lemon teching technique would be to make it taste lemony flavor rather than mushroom flavor. Contrary to popular belief, acidic stuff like orange juice and stuff like that does not make your trip more intense. There's no truth to that at all. And lemon juice isn't strong enough to break down. I mean, your stomach acid's really not strong enough to break down the material that mushrooms are made out of. So you're not really accomplishing anything by lemon teching it. And so when I read about that, I decided like, well, maybe I don't really need to put the lemon juice in my tea anyway. I didn't realize what the lemon juice was doing in the process that I use. It's not meant to be that sort of lemon teching process. When you grind it up like that, the lemon juice bonds to the acid, bonds to the psilocybin, and it holds it stable. If you don't put that lemon juice in there, the psilocybin will just quickly break down and deteriorate, and you'll start seeing that blue color, and it's just no good anymore after that. So that's why I stopped using the lemon juice, because I think, I don't need to do this. And then all of a sudden I was getting the shitty results. And I looked further into it and realized that that's not what lemon teching is. That's just something completely different. So if you do look into that or look it up or whatever, and you see the lemon teching thing, that's not what I'm talking about doing. That's a different technique that, again, I can't see really what it accomplishes at all. Because personally, as bad as mushrooms taste, the idea of a mushroom soaked in fucking lemon juice sounds horrifying. Like that sounds so much worse than just the actual just getting it over with and eating the damn mushroom. They're not good, but I mean, they're not that bad. It just kind of tastes earthy and muddy, and it's just tastes like a mushroom. A mushroom soaked in lemon juice. Just God, that sounds awful. Yeah, I don't know what species you have. I do have several Anubias that just don't really seem to grow. They just kind of stay fairly compact. But the one that's in the 40 here, my discus tank, you can see how this one's growing in a real, I'm going to eventually have to get in there and cut that off. I've got some of that in my 29 where every now and again it's really low lighting in there, but I do have to get in there and cut some of that off. So that's definitely a species of Anubias that really likes to just run and grow. It'll send that rhizome will just keep, elongating. There's a good word for you, Zany. It will elongate and eventually become erect and stick completely proud of the water, as mine has done down there. All right, we're gonna light this joint again. This is the 45th time I've lit this thing. Lighted. No, I can't stand mushrooms. The only mushrooms I eat are the ones that make me see funny things. And if they didn't make me see funny things, I wouldn't fucking eat them. I don't even trust mushrooms. They're like a weird thing from another planet. They don't need light to grow, and they communicate with other plants and shit. I don't trust mushrooms as far as I could throw them. But if they're going to do this for me, I'll make a concession and I'll eat these. But otherwise, no. Exactly, Laura. That's exactly what it's like. That was even used in the example when I was reading about it. The acid in the lemon juice bonds with whatever it is in the apple that prevents it from oxidizing, which is what gives you that brown color. With the mushrooms, you don't get a brown color like you do with the cut apples. You get a purple color or a bluish color. And it's doing the exact same thing. That acid is bonding with whatever it is in the apple that prevents it from oxidizing, and it keeps it looking nice and crisp and fresh, and prevents that browning color. So you could think about the same thing, except instead of saying it prevents browning, it prevents bluing, because you don't want to see that blue color. The more blue you see, the less psilocybin you have. Simple fish. I don't think I've ever gotten anything from the Walmart deli. We get the rotisserie chickens and the chicken strips, which are hit or miss depending on when you get them, from my local grocery store called Weiss. I don't know where you're from or whatever, but the regional grocery store around here is Weiss. I get their rotisserie chickens. I have had the rotisserie chickens from Walmart. I don't like them. It's a different kind. I think it's the Wonder Chicken or something. I don't even buy the Wonder Chickens from my own grocery store. I just don't like the way it's weird. It seems like a processed chicken or something. But I've never had any of the popcorn chicken. I tend to avoid the more breaded stuff. So chicken strips, you know, you're getting a lot of meat to bread ratio, but when you get down to that popcorn size, you're getting a lot of bread to meat ratio. And so I tend to avoid those kind of foods. I do have some Anubias nana. I know that for sure because I remember buying it, and I think that's the ones that I have that just stay really small. I don't know what the other one is that grows like a beast, but it definitely does. Oh, let's see. Now, Publix. Oh, you must be down south if you got a Publix. Um, the spicy popcorn chicken, that actually sounds pretty damn good. You could use citric acid powder if you wanted, Laura. You could use a little bit of vinegar if you were, you know, in a pinch and that's the only kind of acid you had. I actually do have a big tub of citric acid that I use for cleaning my drains, believe it or not. But if you want to make your tea a little tart or give it a little bit of a tart flavor without the lemon flavor, you can just use a little bit of citric acid and put that in and stir it around, and you'll get that nice tart. It's what they put in candy to make it that sour taste. That sour taste is the acid from the citric acid. Um, so you could use citric acid. You could use acetic acid, which is vinegar. You could use a little bit of orange juice. Lemon juice tends to be higher because it's like the lemon juice concentrate is what I use. It tends to be a little higher acid content. But that's the idea. You need to get acid mixed in with the mushroom. And if you're using citric acid powder, I would mix it with just enough water to get it to soak into the mushroom and so that the acid bonds with the psilocybin. Steve, figured you were sleeping or out partying, one or the other. Now, next time I'm at the damn Walmart, you know I'm going to be thinking about that and I'm going to have to go try it out. Look, I've got these. I'm just going to walk around with an unlit joint in my mouth because I'm tired of lighting it. This Anubias down here, I've never cut to my remembrance anyway. I don't ever remember getting in there and trimming that. And you guys know how many years old this tank is. It's over a decade old, and I don't think I've ever trimmed that one. This one, every so often, can you see the size of the where I cut it off there and you got the new bud coming out or the new runner coming out? So every time you cut it, the rhizome will fork and branch and it just gets huge. This is a cutting of the same species, and you can see the large rounded leaves. But if we come down here and look at this Anubias, I don't ever remember cutting that one either. But I didn't put this in when the tank was initially established. It's been in there for several years, but doesn't go all the way back to the beginning. But again, you can see how small that is, and I don't ever remember getting in there and trimming that. Likewise with this. This is Anubias that just sits in there, and you know the broader leaf stuff there just kind of hangs out. I don't ever remember trimming that out either. And then we get to this stuff, and it's just, you know, it's a different ball game. It's a different kind of plant. If you look at the rhizome, I mean, look at the size of that rhizome. It's thicker than my fingers. I think the leaves look amazing when they're, you know, lighted and you're seeing them backlit. They get a little crispy because it's a kind of a low light plant, and I've got them literally sitting inches away from these spotlights. But it's a beast. Oh, look, there's one of my huge nearite snails. I actually saw some shrimp in my 55. Oh, I whistled at you. Some shrimp in the 55 over there the other day when I was feeding it. A couple little orange ones were in there. I vaguely remember throwing some shrimp in there, so apparently they have survived. I've been trying to spread them around in all my tanks. I always assume a lot of them, they're just going to become snacks eventually, which is okay. I don't make a habit of putting them in the tanks where I think they're going to get gobbled up. But I've got some in this tank that have survived. So I'm starting to, I got shrimp every damn where at this point. All right, I'm going to light this joint again. I'm gonna feel like I fucking finished a marathon by the time I finish this thing. I've been smoking it since what, 20 after 9, quarter after 9. We're getting way down there, so I'm gonna start playing the Rocky music soon. God damn, it went out on me again that fast. All right. Some booch. You want some booch plants there, Steve? If you want any Anubias, I can give you some, but again, you know what you're going to get when you get something out of my tank. It's going to have, stuff on it. It ain't going to be sterile. But if you want some Anubias next time you're over here, I can give you some. All right, everybody. It is 10 o'clock, so I am going to start winding down, I guess, unless anybody else has any, wants me to keep talking or whatever. I definitely think I'm starting to get used to this. You know what? We're going to call that joint done. I'm tired of fucking with this thing. Jesus Christ. Lit that thing 25 goddamn times during that live stream. All right, so let's at least get into first position so I can stand up. I was starting to say that it's not that I'm building a tolerance. I don't think you really build a tolerance towards psychedelics. But I'm just getting used to doing the mushrooms often enough now that sort of 1 gram level, that's just this nice, comfortable place to be. I'm getting so used to that I don't feel as, I don't know, it just feels a little more normal. I don't feel quite so spacey as I thought I would be from it. Now, again, that second wave starts rolling in and multiplies on top of what's already going on. I like doing it that way because you get your first up and you, right as I'm starting to sort of crest, I'm drinking that second one. And so they kind of overlap as I'm going up from the first batch. This, is kind of coming down. And so I get this sort of like, I get to ride that high point for several hours before I start rolling down the other side of it. No, I don't mean it like that. I know it was kind of hard to explain what I was trying to say. Having a tolerance for something and getting used to it in the sense of like, this doesn't feel unfamiliar. Like when I drink my mushroom syrup, the first few times I drank that, it felt really spacey and different. I still get the same effect from it. Especially now, I haven't had any of that stuff in weeks, and so I would have lost any tolerance I had. So if I drink the same amount of it, I'm still going to have that same effect. I'm just kind of used to it. It doesn't seem that weird to me. Kind of like the difference between being a professional drunk like myself, who was able to stand there perfectly still because I could ignore that feeling like I was, I know that's from the alcohol and I could just stand there still and not lose my balance. I was fucking drunk, but you'd never know that because I'm just so used to it that I just cope with it. I deal with it. I don't act like I'm drunk and I don't sound like I'm drunk because I'm just used to being drunk. Doesn't mean you have a tolerance to it. Like I'm not being affected by the alcohol. And it's kind of the same way with the mushrooms. I'm still, I'm definitely seeing the same things I would normally see and all that kind of stuff. Just, you can only see so many ghosts before you stop going eek every time you see one. You know what I mean? You get used to it. Meat. Nice. We're going to have another beefcake. Yeah, well, some people, especially depending on how you're lifting and whatnot, but some people just aren't built to like really get bulky. I had a buddy years ago. We used to work out together, and I just started bulking up, and then he just got leaner and wirier. He was one of those people that like couldn't get. I think he weighed like 135 pounds or something, and he would eat and eat and eat, and he would do all these high calorie protein drinks, and he'd do the Eric Cartman's weight gainer 5,000, and he just could not put on weight, especially while working out. He wasn't getting bulkier, he was just getting more cut the whole time. I mean, obviously his muscles got a little bit bigger, but he just never got big. It was weird. So not everybody has the same results when they work out or whatever, but you should definitely notice a difference in muscle tone and definition and all that kind of stuff. Whether they get bigger or not is not really going to be that noticeable as much as the muscle tone of just how firm they are. There's another good one for you, Zini. All right. I haven't had a hit of nicotine in a long time. £40 curl. See, I can't even do a 40-pound curl. My mushroom syrup is, I don't have any with me right now. I do have a candy bar, but it's upstairs in the refrigerator, and I'm not going to go upstairs and get it. I can explain it to you easy enough. Go to thetreehouse.com. That's TRE house.com. And they sell these mushroom products. Don't waste your money on the vape, but the gummies, the syrup, or the chocolate bars are all really good. I don't know exactly what the ingredient is in it. I tend to think it's DMT is the ingredient in it because I think it's made with this Mimosa hostilis root, and that contains DMT. It's what they use to make ayahuasca, but I don't know that for sure. There's like no information on their website. You have to just kind of find information online. And according to AI, this Mimosa hostilis root bark is one of the ingredients that's in there. So if that's true, that would make sense. And the active ingredient would be DMT. It's dimethyl tryptamine. So dimethyltryptamine. Or someone else suggested that there is another synthetic chemical out there. They call it synthetic mushrooms. And I don't remember the actual chemical name for it, but it was something like CO24DMT. So it still seems to be somehow a form of DMT. And it's a synthetic ingredient that is supposed to mimic the effects of psilocybin. And I've always said that I don't think that's what's in my mushroom syrup and these chocolate bars because it doesn't feel like psilocybin. It's sort of its own thing. It's a great thing. I love it. But it's not the same as real psilocybin mushrooms. And so I always said that if it's, this fake stuff, they did a terrible job, because it doesn't really mimic the same kind of feeling. But I was thinking about it today, and if I was standing here now, maybe I drank my syrup, maybe I took a gram of mushrooms. I could kind of see how it's similar enough. So now I'm to the point where I think it's possible that artificial, synthetic mushroom chemical maybe what's in the syrup. So again, I don't know exactly what is doing it for you, but whatever they make their syrup and their chocolate bars and their gummies out of, it's fucking fantastic. I love that shit. I would do a lot more of it if it wasn't so damn expensive. The syrup is my favorite. I've never had the gummies, and I also like the chocolate bars. I'm on a subscription where I get a monthly chocolate bar, and then every month I get 2 bottles of syrup. So even that's more than I should be spending money on, but it's really, really good. I really like that stuff. 100 push-ups a day, that'll definitely start bulking your arms and your chest up. Hey, Cornish. Well, that's probably better for you anyway, not having all the leftovers. I don't know. Maybe it's time for you to get some guppies. Yeah, I was going to say now that Cornish has popped in. I know Cornish takes the gummies and likes the gummies. Yeah, well, with the syrup, it is more expensive. But if you actually look at the dosing, compared to the chocolate bar, you only get 15 doses. But the bottle of syrup, you get 23 doses. So it is more expensive than the chocolate bar, but you get a lot more dosages. And I tend to go through it. That's why I buy 2 bottles at a time. I drink about 1/3 of a bottle, maybe 1/4 of a bottle, between 1/4 and 1/3 of a bottle. Is a nice fucking evening. It's really, really good stuff. I don't know if I like that more than I like the psilocybin, again, they're just kind of different things to me. Like my mushroom syrup is one kind of evening, and psilocybin is a different kind of evening, you know? Yeah, it's definitely proprietary. They don't tell you what the hell's in it. It's good stuff. I really want you to try it, Steve. I'm dying for the day that we can go walking in the woods and we got a long enough period of time where you feel comfortable. I totally understand your, your feeling of like something you've never done before. Like I don't want to do, out on the road where I got to drive home for an hour and like, I get it. I totally get it. But I can't wait till the day. It's probably going to be next spring. Maybe if we get a nice fall day, we can go walking in the woods. If we can get a good 4 or 5 hours out there, that'll be plenty of time. But I also have to have the syrup or the chocolate bar or something like that. I really want you to try that stuff. You're going to love it. It's just fantastic stuff. I can't imagine anybody taking that and not liking it. Now, if you mistook it and just ate it because you thought it was a chocolate bar, you may not have a pleasant experience. But if you're willingly taking something that you know is a psychotropic drug, it's a fun one. It's a good one, So I highly recommend those Treehouse products. Again, don't waste your money on the vape, but the edible stuff, the syrup and the candy bars and all that is good stuff. All right, everybody. I can definitely feel that second drink starting to roll on to me at this point. So I think it's time to start winding down before I wind up saying something to get myself in trouble. I was going pretty good on Wednesday's members only live stream. If you're not a member of the channel and you want to be, it's $2.99 a month. You'll get an extra Wednesday members only live stream and access to the Discord and stuff. But this last Wednesday, I drank like 1.2 or 1.3 grams, which is more than I normally would. And I don't know. I don't necessarily think it was a good live stream, but it was an interesting live stream on Wednesday. So before I get there again, I think we'll just call it a night. It's already 10:15. So I'll give you a few more minutes. Last call. Any comments, thoughts, questions? Say corn dog flop. I wish there was a way you could direct those to certain people, but it doesn't seem to be. This fucking spinning light is really starting to get to me. I feel like I'm going to fall over or my brain's going to split in half or something. Thank you, Zini. I'm assuming since you just woke up, you didn't watch that video I sent you today. It's not important. I just had some thoughts about that. I don't know if you watched that video from Mike about the video game controversy and all that bullshit. So if you watch that video, I had some thoughts about that video. So if you haven't watched that video, you need to watch that one first. Or I guess you probably don't. You'll be able to follow along with what I'm saying. But that's all it was about. It's just me driving home, chatting for a minute. I can't believe how early I got home today. Thank you, Art. Hamilton. I don't know if you're watching or not, but that's nice to see Hamilton will be back. Hamilton's been a long-time viewer. There's a certain point in my day, I won't give you guys details because other than Steve, none of you are going to know what the hell I'm talking about. Ideally, I like to be on 97 heading north by about 2 o'clock. 3 o'clock is the latest that I still consider myself sort of on schedule. I also have 3 customers to hit on the way home along 97. I get off on 32, actually, off 97. But anyway, I got 3 customers to hit on the way home, et cetera, et cetera. If I were to just drive from that point I'm talking about, it would be like a 45-minute to an hour drive from the house. As long as I get there by like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm doing pretty good. Today, I pulled in my driveway at 3:02 in the afternoon. I cannot fucking believe how early I got home. I did leave the house about an hour earlier than normal, but I've said this before, just an hour in the morning. If I can get out of here a little bit earlier, I miss all that fucking afternoon traffic, and it saves me like 2.5 hours on the back end of my day. Normally on my Annapolis day, I get home at 5:30, maybe 6 o'clock on a bad day. Today I was home at 3:02 pulling into the driveway. So I know that doesn't mean shit to any of you, but I was fucking stoked. Uh, 36 meters equals 3 years, maybe. Metric years. All right, let's. I'm gonna fucking break my brain with this link. Let's really do it up for a few minutes before we call it a night. This is really gonna wreck my head when it's dark in here and all I see is that biscuit ball. Remember, I'm not just on. I'm still like going through that onset, which is, again, can be a little unpleasant sometimes. Let me stop puffing on that nicotine, and I'll puff on this and give it a little bit of a light show. I love the way it shines off my head. stand back a little so I can look like the god that I am. That's a good way to start my Friday night, because my Friday night is just getting started. All right, everybody. Here's your light show. Again, I wasn't planning on doing this long, but I don't seem to be getting a lot of conversations. So I think we can safely start wrapping it up. But you got to admit, this is the coolest fish room ever. Have you guys ever seen my fish room? This place is amazing. This was your first YouTubing of the day. Well, you got a good one, Steve, hopefully. At least I had fun. That's all that matters. So, all right, everybody. I am going to wind that down and say good night. We will be back, as far as I know, Sunday night. I don't see any reason why we won't at this point, but you know what a flake I am, and so who knows what's going to happen. I guess I kept forgetting all day was Halloween, so maybe a lot of people had off or something, but traffic was a fucking breeze. Not only did I get out of here early, but again, traffic was just fucking easy. It's DNP perfect. I'm not sure what you're trying to say there, but I'll take it as a compliment. Yeah, again, I was expecting, even getting out of here at 9, I was expecting like, I'll get home early at, 4 or 4:30. Nope, breeze through my day. And because we're at that sort of transition between the summer plants, the way deer feed is they'll eat the summer stuff until it's gone. And then the stuff that they eat in the winter is not stuff. Oh, damn near perfect. Thank you. I'm an old man. You need to explain those things to me sometimes. The stuff they eat in the winter is not stuff they prefer. It's just what's available when everything else is gone. So until we really get to that point, I don't need to spend a lot of focus on the winter type stuff. But the summer type stuff is all sort of dying back and everything too. And so normally, while I'll go through at least a full jug of repellent, which costs me $100, I'll go through, oftentimes in the midsummer, I'll go through a jug and a half. Today, I didn't even use a half a jug for my entire day. And we're still home at 3 o'clock. So that was a fucking awesome day. I nailed it. Made a lot of money. I made the bulk of my money for the month I did today. And I was still home at 3 o'clock. That's fucking awesome. Yay me. What is thy bidding? My bidding is for you all have a good night. Because, again, I got a Doctor Who waiting for me. I think, if not, it's not that big a deal because I can watch one of the other ones I've watched 100 times. It's not like that'll be a stretch. Yeah, all right. I think I'm going to call it a night there. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you all on Sunday as far as we know. Good night.